Specifically, we're going to be just talking about like divisibility rules, kind of. So, uh, so divisibility rules are like kind of like rules that like allow you to determine if one number is like divisible by another, like in a fast and easy way. So like sometimes we might be given like maybe a large number and we want to know, is this number divisible by, say 9 or something, or is this number divisible by 11, or is this number divisible by 5? Like sometimes we might be interested in asking the question of whether or not one number is divisible by another number. So like maybe we want to know, is the number 1, 2, 9, 8, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5, is this like divisible by 9 or something? So of course, one possible solution you can always do is, I guess you could, like, if you wanted to know if this number was divisible by 9, you could just like take this number and divide it by 9 and see if you get a remainder of 0. But like that's kind of tedious, and especially when you have like really large numbers, you clearly don't want to do that. And that's why like divisibility rules are important. So I've already included some of the most important like divisibility rules on the handout, but so like let's talk about them. So uh so first of all, let's take a look at how do you determine if a number is divisible by 2. So I hope like most of us already know like, how to determine if a number is divisible by 2. As long as the last digit is even, then it's divisible by 2. So, this should be like hopefully familiar, right? Like 12 is divisible, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, for example, is divisible by 2 because the last digit is even. So let's move on to like 3. To test divisibility for 3, all you have to do is you take the sum of the digits and you see if the sum of the digits is divisible by 3, then the number itself is divisible by 3. So for example, the number like 4, 5, like 9 or something, if you were to add the digits together, 4 plus 5 plus 9, you get 18. And 18 is divisible by 3. So then you can conclude that 459 is divisible by 3. So like for 3, you just add the digits and see if the sum is divisible by 3. For divisibility rule for 4, you just take a look at if the last 2 digits are divisible by 4. So for example, if you have the number like 9713864 or something, what you do is you would take the last 2 digits. So in this case, it's 64. And you notice that 64 is divisible by 4. So you know this entire number is divisible by 4. So that's the divisibility rule for 4. For 5, it should be pretty obvious. If the last digit is 0 or 5, then it's divisible by 5. And then let's look at 6. So for divisibility rule for 6, this would just be if a number is divisible by both 2 and 3, then it's divisible by 6. And then for 7, so for 7, like it's not on the handout, and the divisibility rule for 7 isn't like that useful. Like I don't think there's ever been like a problem where you've been like required to know what the divisibility rule for 7 is, and a lot of the times it's just faster just to do the long division. But in case you're curious, like the divisibility rule for 7 is something like let's just take a number like 987 or something. Like the algorithm basically is for divisibility rule of 7 is like you take the last digit, or let's like add a few numbers. Let's say like 2, 1 or something. So the idea for the divisibility rule for 7 is like you take the last digit, in this case it's 1, and you double it. So 1 times 2 is 2. Then you take the remaining number, 982. You take the remaining number, which is 982, and you subtract 2, you get 980. And then you can repeat this process. So like you take the last digit, which in this case is 0. So you double it, you get 0. The remaining number is 98. So you do 98 minus 0, you get 98. And then you clearly see like 98, you can tell that's divisible by 7. Or if you wanted to like continue this like algorithm kind of, you would take this last digit again, multiply by 2, you get 16. Then you take the remaining part of the number, which is 9. So you do 9 minus 16 is -7. And clearly -7 is divisible by 7. So like 9821 is divisible by 7. So like that's kind of the algorithm for divisibility rule of 7. It's basically you take the last digit, you multiply it by 2, and you subtract it from the remaining portion of the number, and you kind of like repeat this algorithm continuously until you can tell the number is divisible by 7.